And what's poppin' YouTube? My name is Kene, if you didn't already know, and I'm a rising sophomore at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And as you can tell by the title, today I'm going to be sharing with you guys what I did throughout high school and how I crafted my application in order to get into UNC. So I'm going to be sharing my grades, I'm going to be sharing my test scores, activities that I did in high school, and so much more. And I'll include timestamps in the caption if you guys want to just go ahead and skip to the parts that you want to see, even though I do advise you guys to watch the entire video. And just a quick disclaimer, this is simply just me sharing what I did throughout high school. This is by no means the blueprint. This is not exactly what you have to do to get into UNC. I also didn't sit down with the readers who read my application, so I don't know exactly what stood out to them, but I just want to give you guys a little bit of hope, a little bit of encouragement, especially if you're, doubting one or two areas of your application. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more college content and beauty and lifestyle content. And without further ado, let's get into this video. All right, so a little bit of background about how I applied to UNC. So I applied using the Common Application. If you guys are not familiar with the Common Application, it is basically exactly what the name says. It is one application that allows you to apply to several schools, depending on if the school is Common App eligible or not. Some schools don't use Common App, but it basically makes the application process a lot easier because you can track all your applications on one website and you can pretty much submit the same application to every school, except higher ranked schools usually have additional requirements. So UNC had like 2 additional essays, and just like they might ask you extra questions and stuff like that, but it's pretty much a very smooth process. And so that's how I applied to UNC. So a little bit about my high school before we get started. I went to a public charter college prep high school, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about my high school as we talk about grades, as we talk about AP, as we talk about test scores, and so on. First, we're going to talk about my grades in high school. So I'm going to give a little bit of background about my high school's way of grading and just the general method for calculating grades and so on. So we operated on a 4.0 scale, but our grades were given in in weighted format. So basically, if you don't already know, a weighted GPA is a GPA that takes the rigor of your courses into account. So if you're taking an honors course, if you're taking an AP course, you're going to get more credits for that. So I think an honors course, you get an extra 0.5, an AP course, you get an extra 1 point, depending on how your school does it. So that's kind of how my school operated. But an unweighted GPA, which is a more widely accepted method of grading, is basically when an A is an A B is a B, and so on. So difficulty is not taken into account with an unweighted GPA. And so when I submitted my application for UNC, I believe I did have to convert my grades over, or I believe the school ended up converting it over, because that is just the best method to be able to compare and to be able to look at for real what your grades actually were. So I'm going to be giving you guys my weighted and my unweighted GPA just so you guys can kind of see where I was at with that, but that's just some things to keep in mind. And then as far as my school's grading scale, I'm going to put that up on the screen, but as you can see, this is kind of our grading scale. A 93 to 100 was an A, an 87 to a 92 was a B, and then so on. Let's get into my grades. So for my freshman year, I took about 8 classes every year, just keep that in mind. So for my freshman year, my weighted GPA was a 4.31, but my unweighted GPA was a 4.0. So I got straight A's my freshman year, and I took 3 honors classes in the West were regular. For my sophomore year, my weighted GPA was a 4.51, and my unweighted GPA was also a 4.0. So during my sophomore year, I took 4 honors classes, so that's why my weighted GPA went up a bit. But my unweighted GPA was still 4.0 because I got straight A's my entire sophomore year. For my junior year, my weighted GPA was a 4.75, and my unweighted GPA was a 3.875. So I got 1 B in my first semester, and I got 1 B in my second semester, which kind of decreased my unweighted, but I did take 3 APs and 3 honors courses. So, that boosted my weighted GPA a lot. And then finally, for my senior year, I had a weighted of a 4.75 and an unweighted of a 3.875. And it was basically the same as my junior year, except I got 2 B's in 1 semester, because as you know, for your senior year, when you're applying to colleges, you can only send in your first semester. So it ended up kind of just being the same thing. As you guys can tell, my classes got more difficult as time went on, which I think was a pretty good thing that I did. I started taking more and more, difficult courses, AP courses, honors courses, and so on. So I definitely recommend that you guys, do that if it's possible. My school didn't have that many AP options, but we still had, a pretty good amount, and they've gotten more and more as the years have progressed. A little bit about ranking. So my school does do ranking, and I was actually number 16 out of 117 at the time I submitted my application. All right, so now we are going to be talking about test scores. And again, I'm not the best test taker, and I'm not sure if like standardized tests will really apply for like the next few classes because of like Corona and everything, but I still want to share that with you guys just to show overall that like even if you fall a little bit short on one end of the application, that does not stop your chances of getting into the university. Like, it's a holistic, review. So just keep those things in mind. Just a little bit of background about the test that I took. So I actually took the SAT and the ACT, SAT once, ACT twice, but I only submitted my best ACT score. So I did very horrible on the SAT. Like, I don't even remember what my score was on it because I just saw it. I knew that like this was not my test. My official like ACT score, composite score, was a 27. So this is the second test, the better test. And on the English, I got a 31. On the math, I got a 24. On the reading, I got a 27. And on the science portion, I got a 27 as well. So pretty much all of my scores increased except for the math portion. I had a technical difficulty on the math section of the test. I also want to point out that the average test score at UNC is a 31. So here I am with a 27. I'm in the 25th percentile, which is basically like the lowest percentage of students who usually get accepted. The average test score range for UNC students is a 27 to a 33. So I was right, I just made the mark. Then like for out-of-state students, it was even higher. It was actually 29 to 35. So I definitely don't, I'm not the definition of like your quote unquote average UNC student as far as like the test scores is concerned. So again, please do not be discouraged. Anything can happen. Luckily, I didn't have to submit all of my scores. I don't really know if that would have changed anything, but on the Common App, you do not have to submit all your scores when you're applying to UNC. So do what you will with that information. All right, so now we're going to talk about AP testing. So by that point in time, by my senior year, I had only gotten back the scores for 3 of the AP classes out of the 6 I took in total in high school. And so I submitted those. So the AP classes and scores that I submitted was, I took AP Government and Politics for the US, and I got a 3 on that. I took AP Comparative Government and Politics, and I got a 3 on that as well. And then the last one was I took AP Calculus AB, and I got a 2 on that. So again, guys, not the best test taker. I still did pretty well in the class itself, but I still submitted those scores because I think those were required. Like, if you took any AP test and you had the scores, you were required to submit those, I believe. So yeah, that's the AP test. All right, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about the activities I did throughout high school. And so on the Common Application, you were allowed to list up to 10 different activities, and I filled my list up. Like, honestly, there was more stuff that I wanted to and could have put, but like that was just the amount of slots I was given. So just some tips for you guys. Don't be modest. Like, put everything you want to put on the application. Put things that you think will stand out, that you had a leadership role in, that you just, anything you were literally involved in, because you just never know what might stick out to the application readers. So I'm going to go through what I did in high school and kind of for how long I did them. So the first thing was that I started my own makeup business. So I was a business owner in high school. I did makeup for others, and I listed that as, I think I said I did it for 3 years. The options is to put like 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. So I put like 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. The second thing I did was I was the captain of my school's Majorette dance team, and so I was captain for my final 2 years of high school, but I was involved in dance for all 4 years of high school. The third thing I put was that I was a member of the tennis team for 3 years, but I was a co-captain for like either my second or third year on the team. And the fourth thing I put was that I was on a speech and debate team, and I was a member for 2 years, my freshman and sophomore year of high school. Then I put that I was on the Model UN team for 2 years as well for my junior and senior year of high school, and that I was the captain of the team, or like a co-captain. The next thing I put was that I was a member of the National Honor Society for my final 2 years of high school. And NHS, all those like honors societies are always great things to put on your application. I was in a mentoring program called Teens Helping Teens. Basically what that is literally upperclassmen helping underclassmen, and that was just an initiative that was very unique to my school. The next thing I put was that I worked at a pharmacy, which just looks amazing that a college student is, that a high school student is working at a pharmacy. And I was also a licensed like pharmacy technician as well. The next thing I put was that I was a part of a girl group called Rare Gems, and I kind of listed this as more like a volunteer type of thing because it was basically just a program that brought young ladies in the area together, and they would do like back to school giveaways and just all types of things, and it was considered community service. So I listed that, and I did that for about, I want to say 3 years of high school. Finally, I put student council, and I was the student council treasurer my sophomore year for 1 year of high school. So yeah, those are my activities. And another thing I would recommend and say is that if you're in an activity, like try to list the ones that you like were in and you stay committed to. So as you can see, like a lot of my activities were like 2+ years. So I would definitely say like 2+ years is a good, amount of time for you to be in an activity and for you to list. The only exception for me was student council, but of course, like student council is a position that you had to run for. So that was the only reason why I couldn't do that for more than 1 year. And I think one thing about UNC, I noticed they want people who are going to be active on their campus and not someone who's just going to, get A's. You see what I'm saying? So you definitely want to make your activity section stand out, and that's not something that you can get wrong. Try to get involved as soon as possible, and yeah, just try new things. Another thing about my activities was that they all weren't the same types of activities. My interests were very just all over the place in high school. So I think that was another thing that like stood out, was just the fact that I tried new things and I was committed as well. All right, so the last major section of the application would be the essay section. And so I think my essays were another like plus for how I got into UNC. So I answered, of course, the main Common App question, and you could choose between the list of about 8. And then there was like 2 additional questions from UNC. So I'm not gonna read off like my essays because some of the things I wrote in my essay were pretty personal. So I just don't really wanna read them like out loud or whatever. But I will kind of give an overview about what they're about and like the question that was kind of given. So for my personal essay, the question that I chose was, some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that is so meaningful they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, then please share your story. Basically what I wrote about here was I put a summary of my life, but it was written in a very like creative way. So it wasn't like your typical, introduction, 3 paragraphs, and a conclusion. I really tried to craft my essay in a way that was very unique to me and just like would stand out amongst, other applications. So I think like it was about 4 paragraphs, but like everything started with a year. And then it also started with like a time as well. So it was very like unique. And there's so many different creative, essay ideas that you guys can look up. You can do an essay, I can't remember what it's called. I remember one time I saw an essay where it was like the girl like spelled out her name, but like each paragraph started with like the first letter of her name or something like that. So like just getting very creative with your essay, and then also making the content very, meaningful, very unique to you. And it should show some type of growth. It should show some type of, literally anything that is important to you. Okay, so now for the UNC specific essay prompts. So there was 4 options for questions you could choose from, but you only had to choose 2. And so I'm gonna talk a little bit about the 2 I chose and just like the topics of my essays. And so the first question was, what is one thing that we don't know about you that you want us to know? So the first thing I wrote about for one of the questions was my journey through using cosmetics and how I went from using it to hide myself to like using it as an artful expression of my true self and a tool of empowerment. So that essay kind of showed growth. It showed how I also used it to help other people. A lot of readers want to see how you help others, not just like what you do for yourself or what you can accomplish, but they also want to see how can you make the places that you go to a better place. Like for example, why would they accept you into their college? Like how are you going to help? That was my first essay. And then the second one was, what about your background or what perspective, belief, or experience will help you contribute to the education of your classmates at UNC? I talked about my identity and being Nigerian American, and with that I just kind of talked about my name and how my view on my name changed. And once I came to realize what my name meant, then I used it for X, Y, and Z. And I talked about a lot of the things that were just like cultural values that were instilled in me and how I could bring those to UNC and etc. So those are kind of the 2 essay prompts that I chose. For the first essay question, I like that one because you could pretty much talk about whatever you wanted to. Like, what is one thing you wanted to know that you'd already know? Like, I edited another essay and just kind of like submitted that. So just kind of a application hack. You don't have to, completely write new essays for every school. You can tweak them and send them to another school. I really didn't think my life was that interesting. I really didn't think that I had a lot to write about until, I really started brainstorming. I really started like digging deeper into myself. So even if you think that you don't have anything to write about, you have to really dig deep. Sit down with somebody and talk to them, and maybe something will come out. The essay is really where you could win over pretty much your entire application. So definitely don't take that one lightly at all. All right, so just some last minute things I want you guys to keep in mind moving forward with your application processes. If you are still very early in your high school career, try to get involved and try to remain in these activities, try to gain roles, like special roles, leadership roles in the activities, because those really do, help your application shine through. Also, if you haven't started already, start brainstorming things that you can write about, for your college application, because it's never too early to start preparing for college, whether it be studying for tests, whether it be, brainstorming. I know one thing that my college counselor recommended for me was to journal every day. And then once you finally get to the point where you start looking at your applications, you can kind of go back through the journal and see, you know, what things stick out and what you can write about. And that's just kind of a way to document your life so that the brainstorming process won't be as hard when it gets to that point. Other things I want you guys to keep in mind: don't count yourself out of any school, because you never know what could get you in. That's just going beyond UNC. Like, follow your dreams and apply to the schools that you want to apply to. If it is, you know, possible for you, if that is what you really want, then I definitely recommend that you do it. I also say just always present the best version of yourself on your application. I feel like that's common sense, but like, you know, present the best version of yourself. Again, I didn't submit all of my test scores. Like, you don't have to submit all your test scores if you're not really that proud of them. If you think that they would decrease your chances, you don't have to put it on there. And then finally, tests do not define you. It's a holistic review of, at most schools, of pretty much every application. So don't count yourself out, don't sell yourself short. And yeah, all right, so that is all for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment any questions that you have as well, because I know that this video definitely could yield a lot of questions, and I'll try to respond to you as soon as possible. Be sure to subscribe to my channel and turn on my post notifications, because I have a lot more college content coming for you guys very soon. And I hope to see you guys in the next video.